Hi, it's me. I'm in my polytunnel. I just thought I'd bring you along for a quick update of my polytunnel. My system isn't on. It's not been going for a week or two now because of the fact that I bought a charge controller, a new one to go on my solar, and it doesn't work. Apparently, it needs a part so that I can reset it, and they didn't send that part with it, which I think's ridiculous. But there we are. It's not for me to decide on what people sell you. Anyway, they sold me something that didn't work. I set it up to spec to what they said in the instructions, and it didn't work, and it doesn't work now. So I've just got to wait for the part to come. That part comes next week, hopefully, and when it does, I shall get my system hopefully back on and going again, because it just annoys me. It's the solar thing that I haven't got any power here other than the solar, and this, when the solar doesn't work, it's just infuriating. I don't have water here either, but I do collect the water, as you've seen, through my gutters and in my ponds and all that sort of thing. As I say, because the system's not going, nothing's really growing. It's just sort of in here and it's doing what it's doing. So this is water lettuce. It's a fish tank plant that's floating on the surface fish tank plant, and I've got it in here just to cover up spaces to sort of slow the algae growth down. But as I say, once it gets cold, it'll die off, and you can see the edges of the leaves are catching the cold, and so it's slowing down. So I'll have to take a load home and put it in my fish tank. All the things in the system, they are growing, but they're growing very slowly. So I grew everything in flower pots as well. And you saw me on a different video, and I potted up Wongbok cabbages, which are these. And they're growing really well in the flower pots, better than they are in the system, which is very annoying, but it doesn't matter. It's good to do two lots so that you've always got something to back you up. There is rocket, there is kohlrabi, there's all sorts of things growing in here, excuse me. So I'm glad that I've got backup things growing, as I say, and there is something eating them as well. I don't think it's a slug or a snail. I think it might be a bird. I do get sparrows in here, and they do peck holes in brassica leaves, as you probably all know, if you grow brassicas. I mean, it could be a slug or a snail in some of it, but it's just lots of holes. Anyway, the raised bed, indoor tropical raised bed, I haven't put the second cloche cover around it as yet, because it's still growing quite well. The tomatoes, the lime, calamansi, lemon tree, avocado and banana are all growing really, really well. And the peppers are still going. The more I water them, the more ripe ones I get, and they're delicious and they're hot, and they are really quite warm. They're dragon peppers plants, and as I say, they're all doing well. All my ponds are full because we've had lots of rain, and I've put my gutter system into it so that it runs into each pond and fills it up. And the fish are doing very well in the fish tank over there. The fish in here, white cloud minnow, and the baby ones, they're all doing really well as well. I'm still getting tomatoes out of the media beds and out of the flower pots down here. Every now and again I pull out another tomato plant because it's got blight, and they go outside into my compost bin because I don't want to have them in here, because blight will transfer in the air onto other tomatoes and it'll kill them off. So as it gets cold, I've got to sort of take each one out. I am still getting strawberries, which is ridiculous. There you go, you can see one there. But they don't have the same flavour because of the fact that it's not the same heat. I think that's what it is anyway, but there's still very few of them are producing flowers and fruit. So, you know, I'm getting the odd one, but like I say, they're just not strawberry enough. And like I say, I'm getting tomatoes, which is great because I do like tomatoes and I prefer them fresh. The other things, the kohlrabi and all that sort of thing, they're growing really well in the media beds. As I say, tomatoes are also doing all right in the media beds. I am just hand watering them in at the minute, and again, I have to take the ones that are sort of blighted out. There is a rat or a mouse that keeps coming in, and it keeps helping himself to my fruit, which is very, very annoying. So I've got to pull one out there where it's munched on it. These are my Calamansi lemon trees from last year's cuttings. They've got massive roots on. They were in the floating raft beds for the whole year, and once they got roots I put them in pots. My okra finished and it's got some okra on it, but I'm going to collect the seeds from them and have them next year. And as you can see, I've got a whole load of melons. The melon plants have finished because the system isn't on, so they're not getting water, they're not getting fed. It's very annoying, but there's nothing I can do until I've got the system up and running again. And as I say, I've got to wait for the part to come from a different country far away. Once that's got here, I'll switch it all back on. Hopefully I'll switch it all back on, or otherwise I might just do a review of their crap controller. We'll see whether it works or not first before I say that. Got a little bougainvillea there, which is part of the geranium family. I think it's a parent plant of the geranium. Anyway, it's pretty, it's nice to have a bit of colour. And I've got a big yellow flower there, which is off a squash plant. The flood that I had in the polytunnel, it flooded everything. You can see up the post there, so it was up sort of 3 or 4 inches. But I was very glad that I'd put a raised pallet floor into my shed because it didn't get wet. You can see underneath everything else is soaking wet. There's lots of mud in here and that, but the floor didn't get wet because it's raised up. It's like a floating floor, which is nice. The colour of the floor is brown. It wasn't, but it's just that it's muddy outside, so it doesn't help to keep things dry. This is a tomato I've just pulled up. I'm going to put it in my compost bin, which is outside. I don't like to put it into the worm bin because of the fact that, as I say, it's got blight, so it goes in there into the big compost bin outside. Because the indoor one's got blight, the tomatoes have got blight. I don't want to keep them indoors because the blight will transfer onto other things. This is a narine and it's white. They're supposed to be pink, but this one's white. And I've got a few flowers and things growing in the field. The field's a bit overgrown and I need to go around with a strimmer and cut it all back. My big pond that's down there that collects the water off the gutter, off the polytunnel, and it runs down through a big pipe into a big pond. It flooded the other day, so much so that the water came out, and now it's gone back in and it started filling up again, so that's quite good. My little dragon plant, which is massive now, is all overgrown, so I've got to prune this back because once we get a few frosts it'll kill it off and then it'll have to grow back next year. I'm still getting squash off my squash plants, and the rest of it is just a bit untidy, so I'm going to have a tidy through. Anyway, I thought I'd bring you along for a quick